So starting now with problem 23, we're going to look at negative powers. Usually in our answers, we don't want to see any negatives. Just a reminder from last time, whenever you have a negative in the numerator, the whole thing gets moved to the denominator and the negative goes away. Or if the negative is in the denominator, it moves up top. Okay, so what we do here is we're going to take z to the negative 4. I like to put a 1 underneath and then just switch this. The 1 goes at the top and then you have z to the power of 4. That's it. If the denominator has the negative, it moves up top. So this is h to the power of 7. The negative goes away over 1. I don't have to write over 1. So this is my answer, just h to the power of 7. All right, here I have two things that are being multiplied. Only the one with the negative gets to move. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my fraction bar. I'm going to move this in the denominator, 4 to the power of 3, and then x squared stays at the top. That doesn't get moved because remember, there's already a 1 underneath. So this 4 to the negative 3 moves down, x squared stays. You can keep it like this, or if you want to go ahead and evaluate what x to the 4 to the third power is. So that's just 4. I use this button right here to the power of 3, which is 64, which is the same thing as 4 times 4 times 4, 3 times. Okay. All right, this one's a little tricky. So the negative 5 is only to the x. It's not to the 2. So the 2 stays in the denominator. The 1 stays up there. There's no negative. The 2 stays in the denominator, and only the x to the 5th goes up top. Let's clean this up. So 1 times anything is itself. And there you go. That's it. All right. All right. So for this one, there's two different ways to do it. I will show you both ways, just whichever one you like better. First method is if we want to just move everything, make everything positive, we can do that. So let's go ahead and draw a little fraction bar and just go through everything. So 4 doesn't have a negative, so that stays in the top. C to the 8th power, that's positive 8, so that stays. D to the negative 3 does move down, so D to the positive 3. And then 5 doesn't have a negative exponent, so that stays at the top. C to the negative 5, it moves down. And then D to the negative 1 moves down, so that becomes positive 1. You don't need to write it, but that's what it is. And then from here, we can put the terms together, or the variables together. So this is 8, C8, C5, these are being divided, so you subtract the exponents. So I'll keep the 4 up here. So 8 minus 3, 8 minus 5 is 3. So this C to the third power. The 5 stays at the top. Okay, so remember everything is being multiplied. And then D cubed, D1, that's D to the 4th. We add the exponents. And then we can go ahead and do 4 times 5, which is 20, and then C cubed, and then over D4. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Another way you can do it is by just combining everything first and then simplifying. And hopefully that will take care of the negatives. But let's see what happens here. What you can do here is you can put the 4 and the 5 together, 4 times 5, which is 20. Okay, so that part's taken care of. Okay, that's the 4 times 5 is 20. And then you can do C variables together. So everything is a numerator, right? So when you're multiplying and they have the same base, you can just add the exponent. So this is just doing 8 plus a negative 5, 8 plus a negative 5, which is positive 3. So that ends up being 3c to the positive 3, okay? That came from here, okay? that's that part. And then let's do the same thing with the d variable, d to the -3 plus d to the -1. Not, well, it's times -1, but you add the exponent. So let's see what I have here. -3 plus a -1. Watch your negatives. That's d to the -4. Okay? D to the -4. And then from here, you can, that's where that came from. From here, you can, now you can just do the negative. So this ends up being the 20c cubed stays in the top. And then d to the -4 moves down to the bottom, and that turns positive. So you get the same answer. Whichever method you like, you're welcome to use. Both are not easy. So yeah, get used to both of them, I guess. All right, so for this one, I will, to be honest, the second method where you simplify first, put all the variables together, since everything is just being multiplied together, probably works better, okay? So we're going to put the a terms together. So a -5 times a +7, and then b 8 times b -3, and then times c -12 times c 7. Okay, now this is, you add the exponents, so -5 plus 7, -5 plus 7 is +2. So that's good. The negative goes away on its own. 8 plus -3, which is the same as 8 minus 3, which is 5. So B5, that's also positive. So this is done, this is done. And then -12 plus 7, that's going to be -12 plus +7, that's -5. So that's going to be c to the power of -5. And then, so we're just going to move the -5 down, c variable down. 5, and then c +5. Okay, and that's that. I think I like this method. All right, let's go to the next page. All right, so more negatives to deal with. I'm just going to go through all of them, and then, we'll go to the next one. These are, these problems they just take a long time like this, okay? All right, so you have 8 to the -2, 8 to the -2. So the -2 gets distributed to everything. And then p, it's combining the power of a power. So 5 times -2 here. Okay, 5 multiplied by -2. So that's 8 -2, and then p to the power of 5 times -2, which is -10. So both of them get moved down. So if everything moves down, you do need a 1 at the top. You can't just leave it blank, right? So that's 8, 2, p10. And then from here, if you want to evaluate 8 squared, which is 64, 8 times 8, and then p10. Okay, so yeah, here just make sure the -2 gets, you have 3 products here, 3 things you have to multiply. So 6 gets the -2, x to the 5 times -2 gets -10, and then y, now be careful here, -4 times -2, that's +8. Negative times a negative is a positive. -2 is -8, okay? All right, so what gets moved? So 6 to the power of 2 gets moved down. X to the power of 10 gets to move, and then y8 stays at the top. And then I can go ahead and evaluate 6 squared. That's 8. Oh, that's an 8. 6 squared, which is 36, x to the 10. Okay, so this one, when you have the same base, you subtract the exponent. So this ends up being 2 minus 5. 2 minus 5 is -3. Okay, so which means that this moves down. Okay, that's one way to do the problem. That's the first way to do the problem. Here's another way you can do this problem. okay? So if you have h2 over h5, what you can do is you can just cancel them out, right? You can, sorry, you can take out 2h, 2 of the h's in the numerator, and take out 2 of the h's in the denominator. This is just another way you can do it. So you have nothing left, no h's left in the numerator, so you do need that 1. And then if you take out 2, you're left with 3. Okay, 5, and you take out the 2, you have 3 remaining. Okay. All right, this one, let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let's do the quotient rule first, where you subtract the exponents and see what we get, okay? So for this one, I'm going to do C, -2 minus 7, -2 minus 7. Some of them I'm writing them, some of them I'm not, just so you get used to whatever you feel comfortable with, okay? -1 minus a -2. Okay, there's a lot of negatives here, so be carful. -2 minus 7 is -2 minus 7 is -9. So you have here C -9, and then D, let's just use Desmos, okay? Let me clear all this. You have here -1 minus -1 minus -2. So -1 minus -2, negative. Anyway, the answer is 1. Okay, don't want you to. The answer is 1. So if we see here, this is positive, so this stays at the top. D to the first power, I don't have to write the 1. And then C to the 9th power. All right? Okay. Just want to make sure. Yeah, this video is getting long. Let me just do these two, and maybe I'll, yeah, let me just do these two. All right, so the coefficients, you have to do just the traditional, like, just, those are getting divided. So let me put that in Desmos. So 15 divided by 18 is, you get a decimal, just turn it back into a fraction, and it reduces it down to 5 and 6. So that's part's taken care of. 5 over 6. All right, so this is 2 minus 2, which is just 0, which means there's anything to the 0th power is 1. Anyway, when you see the same thing, just cancel them out. And then you have B 5 minus 3, which is 2. And then C 8 minus 9 is -1. Okay, so in the numerator, you have 5b squared. And then in the denominator, you have 6. What is that? 6c to the first power. C -1 turns into a +1, and you don't have to write it. All right, there's a lot going on here. We're going to distribute the -2, okay? And we're going to distribute the -3. We're going to multiply it, right? So you have x 2 times -2, 2 times, that's multiplied by -2. Okay, and then y 3 times -2. If you just go ahead and multiply it and not write all this out, that's totally fine. And then you have here x 5 times -3. Okay, and then y 4 times -3. Okay, so that's just everything just written out. 2 times -2 is -4. 3 times -2 is -6. 5 times -3 is -15. And then 4 times -3 is -20. Right, well, they all have negatives, so I have nothing left in the numerator. And then everything moves to the denominator. Now, actually, before I do all that, let me go ahead and just combine these things, right? You can just add the exponents since they have the same base. So this is -4 plus negative 15, you add the exponent, negative 4 plus negative 15, which is negative 19. So this is negative 19 here. And then you have y, negative 6 plus negative 20, that's going to be negative 26. And then now they still have all the negatives, so this just gets moved to the bottom. Okay, this was kind of challenging. This is not an easy one. All right. All right. I think, yeah, this is a 15-minute video. I'll go ahead and stop it here. I'll pick up in the next video. All right.